The stars were quiet in the Kepler 442 system. Captain Park Soo-bin stood on the bridge of her ship, the Horizon, watching the distant planets spin slowly in the darkness. She was tired, but happy. Her crew had spent 3 months collecting data on mineral deposits and atmospheric conditions. It was boring work, but important work. 12 ships made up their small fleet. All of them were science vessels with basic weapons. They had never fired those weapons at anything except asteroids that got too close. The crews were researchers, engineers, and explorers. They had left Earth to learn about the universe, not to fight in it. Lieutenant Chohan looked up from his console. His face had gone pale. "Captain, I am detecting multiple signatures entering the system." Soo-bin walked over to his station. "How many?" 200. Maybe more. His voice was shaking. "They are warships, Captain. Big ones." The bridge fell silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing. 200 warships against 12 science vessels. The math was simple and terrifying. The communication system crackled. A harsh voice filled the bridge. It spoke in broken but understandable language. "Unknown vessels. You have entered space claimed by the Gorath Dominion. Identify yourselves and prepare for inspection." Soo-bin took a deep breath. She had trained for first contact situations, but never expected to face one like this. "This is Captain Park Soo-bin of the United Earth Vessel Horizon. We are a peaceful scientific expedition. We did not know this space was claimed. We mean no harm." There was a long pause. Then the voice returned, and it was laughing. "United Earth. We have heard of your small world. You send your entire fleet to study rocks. How pathetic." Soo-bin frowned. Entire fleet. They thought 12 ships was everything Earth had. She opened her mouth to correct the mistake, but the alien spoke again. "I am War Marshal Krath of the Gorath Dominion. Your species is weak. Your technology is primitive. You will surrender your vessels, and your crew will become servants of the Dominion. This is not a request." "Marshal Krath," Soo-bin said carefully, "I must speak with my government before making any agreements. Please allow us to contact Earth." No, the word was final. "You surrender now, or you die now. Choose." Soo-bin looked at her crew. These were scientists, teachers, dreamers. They had families waiting for them back home. She would not let them die without a fight. "We choose neither," she said. The first blast hit the horizon before she finished speaking. The ship rocked violently. Alarms screamed. Through the viewport, Soo-bin saw 2 of her sister ships explode in balls of fire, the Starling and the Discovery. 47 people, gone in an instant. "Turn fire," Soo-bin shouted. All ships, defensive formation. What happened next should have been impossible. 9 science vessels against 200 warships. The Gorath expected a quick slaughter. They did not get one. Lieutenant Cho Haeon had spent years studying alien technology. He had theories about shield frequencies that no one had ever tested. Now, he tested them. He found the weakness in the Gorath shields and shared it with every human ship in seconds. The human weapons were primitive, but they were precise. They hit the same spot on each Gorath ship again and again until the shields failed. Then they hit the engines. Then the weapon systems. Captain Park Soo-bin ordered her helmsman to fly directly at a Gorath destroyer. At the last second, the Horizon turned hard and released its cargo of mining equipment. Thousands of metal pieces slammed into the destroyer at incredible speed. The alien ship broke apart. The Gorath had never seen humans fight. They did not understand that humans had spent thousands of years making war against each other. Every tactic, every trick, every desperate strategy that had ever worked on a battlefield was stored in human memory. Science vessels or not, these crews knew how to survive. When the battle ended, 9 human ships remained. They were damaged and burning, but they were alive. Behind them, 47 Gorath warships drifted dead in space. The rest of the Dominion fleet held back, confused and angry. War Marshal Krath stared at the destruction. His claws dug into his command chair. "Impossible," he whispered. "They are insects. How did insects kill my warriors?" His officers had no answer. They had never lost a battle so badly against such a weak enemy. Sudashbin knew they could not survive another attack. All ships prepare for emergency jump. Get us out of here. The 9 vessels activated their jump drives. Space bent around them, and they disappeared in flashes of blue light. War Marshal Krath let them go. He had lost enough ships for one day. Besides, he was confident the threat was over. Those 9 ships were all that remained of humanity's space power. They would limp home to their little planet and wait for the Dominion to come finish them. He sent his report to the Galactic Council that same day. The human species has been engaged and neutralized. Their fleet is destroyed. Their technology is primitive. They pose no threat to the Dominion or the Council. I recommend they be classified as a minor species suitable for subjugation. The Council accepted his report without question. They marked Earth on their maps as a future conquest. Nothing more? Far away, the 9 human ships limped toward home. Captain Park Subin sat in her damaged chair on her damaged bridge. Her uniform was torn and burned. Blood dripped from a cut on her forehead. But she was smiling. She opened a channel to Earth. The message would take time to arrive, but it would arrive. Command, this is Captain Park Subin of the Horizon. We have made first contact with an alien species called the Gorith Dominion. They attacked us without warning and killed 3 of our ships. We destroyed 47 of theirs before retreating. She paused and looked out at the stars. There is something you need to know. They think we were the whole fleet. They think 12 science ships are all humanity has. They counted our dead and our survivors and decided we are weak. Her smile grew wider, but there was no warmth in it. Only cold promise. They have no idea what is coming. The Galactic Council chamber was the largest room Ambassador Lee Hanna had ever seen. It floated in space aboard a station called Apex 7, far from any planet or star. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform. Representatives from dozens of species filled those seats, watching her with curious eyes. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had no bodies at all, just clouds of glowing energy. All of them looked at the small human woman like she was an insect that had wandered into their home. Hannah walked to the central platform, steady steps. She wore a simple black suit. No medals, no decorations. She looked exactly like what she wanted them to see. Ordinary, unremarkable, harmless. Hi. Arbiter Velos sat on a raised throne above the chamber. He was tall and thin, with silver skin that reflected the lights around him. His species, the Telvari, had led the council for 1,000 years. He looked down at Hannah with something between boredom and amusement. "You may speak, Ambassador," he said. Hannah bowed politely. "Thank you, High Arbiter. I come to the council seeking justice. 3 months ago, a Gorith Dominion fleet attacked a peaceful human scientific expedition without warning. They destroyed 3 of our vessels and killed 47 of our people. We demand an explanation and appropriate consequences." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. War Marshal Krath stood from his seat in the Gorith section. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick gray armor that might have been skin or might have been technology. His eyes burned red. "Humans invaded Dominion space," Krath growled. "We defended our territory. There is nothing to explain." "We did not know the space was claimed," Hannah replied calmly. "We asked for time to contact our government. You refused and opened fire." Krath laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Your government? What government? A few billion primitives living on one small planet? You are nothing. You should thank me for allowing any of your ships to escape." Hannah did not react to the insult. She turned to face the council. "I request an independent investigation into this incident." High Arbiter Velos raised one thin hand. "That will not be necessary. Observer Quintus has already prepared an assessment of your species." A floating sphere descended from the ceiling. It projected images and data into the air. Observer Quintus spoke through speakers hidden somewhere in the chamber. "The human species," Quintus began, "occupies one planet in a minor system. Our long-range observations suggest a population of approximately 2 billion. Their space capability is extremely limited. We estimate they possess between 50 and 100 vessels, most of which are not military grade. Hannah listened without expression. Their weapons technology is approximately 300 years behind Council standards. Their shields are weak. Their engines are slow. In summary, they pose no significant threat to any Council member species. Quintus paused, then continued. We recommend that humanity accepts protectorate status under the Gorath Dominion. This will ensure their safety and provide them access to advanced technology under Dominion supervision. Protectorate status. Hannah knew what that meant. Slavery with a polite name. War Marshal Krath grinned, showing rows of sharp teeth. You see, little ambassador? The Council agrees. Your people belong to us now. Accept this, and we will be merciful. Hannah stood very still for a long moment. The chamber was silent, waiting for her response. They expected tears, begging, perhaps anger. Instead, she smiled. I would like to clarify something, she said. The 12 ships at Kepler 442. You believe they represented our military strength? Observer Quintus flickered. Our data clearly shows your data is wrong. Hannah's voice was still calm, still polite. Those 12 ships were not military vessels. They were science ships. Research vessels crewed by professors and students. They had no soldiers aboard. No combat training. No real weapons. The chamber grew quieter. Something in Hannah's tone made them uncomfortable. You attacked our scientists, she continued. You killed our teachers. And now you offer us slavery as a reward for surviving.
Oh.
She shook her head slowly. The United Earth government has considered your offer carefully. Arbiter Velos leaned forward. And your response? Hannah reached into her pocket and pulled out a small data chip. She placed it on the platform in front of her. This is our formal response. The United Earth government hereby declares a state of war against the Gorath Dominion, effective immediately. All Gorath vessels will be treated as hostile. All Gorath territories are now valid military targets. For a moment, no one moved. Then Krath laughed again, louder than before. Other species joined him. The sound echoed through the massive chamber. They were laughing at her. At humanity. At the idea that this tiny species could fight anyone. War. Krath could barely speak through his laughter. You declare war? With what army? With what ships? We will crush your planet within a single rotation. Hannah waited for the laughter to stop. It took a long time. When silence finally returned, she picked up her data chip and turned to leave. At the door, she paused and looked back at the Council. You should know something, she said quietly. Those 12 ships at Kepler 442, the scientists aboard them, with no weapons and no training, destroyed 47 of your warships before escaping. The laughter died completely. Imagine what our actual soldiers will do. She walked out of the chamber without looking back. Counselor Pyrene, a slender being with luminous blue skin, watched the human leave. She was one of the few who had not laughed. Something about the ambassador bothered her. The woman had been too calm, too confident. People facing extinction did not smile like that. She turned to High Arbiter Velos. Perhaps we should investigate their claims more carefully. Velos waved his hand dismissively. They are bluffing. Primitive species always bluff when cornered. The Gorath will handle them within the month. Pyrene said nothing more, but she could not shake the feeling that something terrible was coming in her ship. Traveling away from Apex 7, Ambassador Hannah finally let herself relax. She poured a small drink and looked out at the stars. Her communication officer appeared on screen. Admiral Kim Taeho is asking for your report, Ambassador. How did they respond? Hannah sipped her drink and smiled. Exactly as we expected. They laughed. And now we show them why that was a mistake. War Marshal Krath stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Wrath. Around him, 50 warships patrolled the border of Gorath space. He was not worried about the humans. He was bored. 3 weeks had passed since the human ambassador declared war. Nothing had happened. No attacks. No movement. Just silence. Krath believed the humans were hiding on their little planet waiting for death. Perhaps they were building more of their pathetic science ships. Perhaps they were praying to whatever gods primitives believed in. It did not matter. Tomorrow, he would lead the invasion fleet to Earth. He would burn their cities and take their people as slaves. The council would praise him. His name would be remembered forever. His officer interrupted his thoughts. "Marshal, we are detecting strange readings at the system edge." Krath frowned. "What kind of readings?" "Energy signatures." "Many of them." They are still coming through, Marshal." The view screen changed to show the edge of the system. At first, Krath saw nothing unusual. Then space itself began to tear open. Blue light poured through holes in reality. Ships emerged from the light. One after another. 10, 20, 50, 100. "How many?" Krath demanded. His officer did not answer. He was staring at his console with wide, terrified eyes. Ships kept coming. They filled the view screen. They filled space itself. Warships of every size, from small fighters to massive carriers, bigger than anything the Gorath had ever built. They moved in perfect formation, like a single living creature made of metal and fire. 600 ships, Marshal. The officer's voice cracked. "No, 800. 1,000. They are not stopping. Marshal, they are not stopping." Krath grabbed the console so hard his claws left marks in the metal. "That is impossible. They have less than 100 ships." Observer Quintus confirmed this. "I am counting over 1,200 now, Marshal." 1,500. "Some of them are. They are too big." "I have never seen ships that big." Across 7 Gorath systems, the same scene repeated. Human fleets appeared from nowhere. They did not send warnings. They did not offer surrender terms. They simply arrived and began their attack. Admiral Kim Tae-ho commanded the main fleet from his carrier, the Taigak. He was a quiet man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth before humanity united. He had hoped never to fight again. But when war came, he knew how to win it. "All ships, begin attack pattern sunrise," he ordered. "Target their command vessels first. Cut off their heads, and their bodies will follow." The human fleet moved like water, flowing around the Gorath defenses. Their weapons were not primitive anymore. In the 3 months since Kepler 442, Earth's factories had worked day and night. New shields. New engines. New weapons based on captured Gorath technology and human creativity. The Gorath had expected slow, clumsy opponents. Instead, they faced ships that danced between their fire, disappearing and reappearing in flashes of light. The humans had learned how to do micro-jumps, tiny, faster-than-light movements that let them teleport across the battlefield in seconds. "War, Marshal." Krath watched his fleet die around him. All ships retreat to defensive positions. Retreat. But there was no retreat. The humans had appeared on every side. The Gorath were surrounded. On the ground, things were even worse. General Yoon Dae-soon commanded the invasion of Gorath colony worlds. Massive platforms descended from orbit, each one carrying thousands of soldiers and hundreds of vehicles. The Gorath ground forces, confident in their strength, charged at the landing zones. They met walls of fire. Human weapons cut through Gorath armor like paper. Human soldiers, smaller and weaker than their enemies, fought with terrible coordination. Every squad knew exactly where every other squad was. They shared information instantly, reacting to threats before the Gorath even knew the threats existed. And then there were the drones. Billions of them. Small machines that flew in swarms so thick they blocked out the sun. They carried explosives. They carried sensors. They carried nothing at all, but crashed into Gorath soldiers at high speed, breaking bones and destroying equipment. General Yoon watched the reports from his command vehicle. "Secure the Capitol building. Disable their communications. I want this planet quiet within 6 hours." "Yes, General." "Resistance is lighter than expected." Yoon nodded. He felt no joy in the victory, only duty. They have never faced an enemy like us. They do not know how to fight a war that moves this fast. At the Galactic Council, Observer Quintus received reports from across Gorath space. Each report was worse than the last. Each report made less sense than the one before. This cannot be correct, Quintus muttered. My calculations showed 50 to 100 vessels. Where did they get thousands? Counselor Pyrene stood beside the observer, watching the data scroll past. You based your assessment on what they showed you. Perhaps they only showed you what they wanted you to see. But why? Why hide their true strength? Pyrene thought about the human ambassador. That calm smile. That quiet confidence. Because they knew this moment would come. They had been preparing for it longer than we realized. In 6 weeks, the war effectively ended. 14 Gorath colony worlds fell to human occupation. The Dominion fleet was reduced to less than a third of its original size. War Marshal Krath escaped death only because Admiral Kim allowed him to escape. Wanting someone to carry the message back to the Council, Krath arrived at Apex 7 alone, his flagship damaged, his pride destroyed. He knelt before High Arbiter Velos and begged for help. They are demons, he gasped. They appear from nothing. They fight without fear. They do not negotiate. They do not stop. Velos stared at the broken warrior. His silver face showed no emotion, but inside he felt something he had not felt in centuries. Fear? How many ships do they have? He asked. Krath shook his head. We destroyed hundreds. Hundreds, but more kept coming. It is like fighting the ocean. You cannot kill the ocean, Observer Quintus recalculated frantically. The numbers made no sense. Nothing made sense anymore. I need more data, Quintus announced. I must understand how we were so wrong. High Arbiter Velos looked at the destruction reports. Entire Gorath systems gone. Millions of soldiers defeated. The most powerful military species in the Council broken in weeks. Summon the human ambassador, he ordered. We need answers. Somewhere in the darkness of space, Admiral Kim Taho received word that the Council wanted to talk. He smiled for the first time in weeks. Good, he said. It is time they learn the truth. The Galactic Council chamber felt different now. The last time Ambassador Lee Hanna stood on the central platform, thousands of voices had laughed at her. Today, the chamber was silent. No one was laughing anymore. High Arbiter Velos sat on his throne, but he did not look bored or amused. He looked worried. Around him, representatives from dozens of species whispered to each other. They had all heard the reports. They had all seen what humanity did to the Grodd. Hannah walked to the platform with the same steady steps as before. Behind her, a holographic image flickered to life. Admiral Kim Tae-ho appeared, standing on the bridge of his flagship somewhere far away. His calm eyes surveyed the council without emotion. Thank you for agreeing to meet, Hannah began. I understand you have questions. Velos leaned forward. Questions. Ambassador, your species has destroyed one of our most powerful member nations. You have occupied 14 worlds. You have killed millions. Yes, we have questions. The Gorath attacked us first, Hannah replied. They refused to negotiate. They tried to enslave us. We defended ourselves. You call this defense? Velos waved his hand and images appeared in the air. Burning Gorath cities. Broken Gorath fleets. Prisoners being led away by human soldiers. This is annihilation, Admiral Kim spoke for the first time. His voice was quiet but carried through the entire chamber. With respect, High Arbiter, this is restraint. The chamber fell even more silent. Observer Quintus floated forward. I must understand how my assessment was so wrong. Our observations showed humanity possessing less than 100 vessels. We counted your population at 2 billion. We measured your technology as primitive. Explain how these calculations failed, Anna nodded. That is a fair question. Admiral, would you share the real numbers? Kim Tae-ho pressed a button on his console. New data replaced the images of destruction, charts, statistics, numbers that made no sense to anyone in the chamber. Earth's population, Kim began, is not 2 billion. It is 19.7 billion. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Our active military personnel across all branches numbers 340 million soldiers, sailors, and pilots. We have over 12,000 warships currently in service, with our factories producing 40 more each month. War Marshal Krath, sitting broken and defeated in the Gorith section, stared at the numbers. His face twisted with horror. Impossible. We would have seen them. Your sensors saw exactly what we wanted them to see, Hannah explained. For over 2 centuries, humanity has been preparing for this moment. We detected alien signals in 2089. We knew other species existed. We assumed they would be hostile. She paused to let that sink in. We built our military underground, in asteroids, in places your long-range sensors could not reach. We used decoy signals and fake communications to make ourselves look small and weak. We wanted any potential enemy to underestimate us. Counselor Pyrene stood from her seat. Her blue skin glowed brighter with emotion. You tricked us. All of us. We protected ourselves, Hannah corrected. We did not know which species would find us first. We did not know if they would be friendly or hostile. The Gorath answered that question when they murdered our scientists. High Arbiter Velos processed this information slowly. His species lived for thousands of years. He had seen many wars. He had seen many surprises. But nothing like this. The fleet you sent against the Gorith, he said carefully. The 4,000 ships that destroyed their military. Is that your full strength? Admiral Kim answered without hesitation. No. One word. One simple word that changed everything. Velos gripped his throne. How much did you send? Our expeditionary force? Approximately 4% of our active military. Chamber erupted. Species that had been silent began shouting. Representatives demanded explanations. Some began calculating what 4% meant, what the full strength would look like. The numbers were terrifying. Pyrene did the math in her head. If 4,000 ships represented 4%, then the total fleet was 100,000 warships. More than every other species in the Council combined? Far more, you mean? Velos struggled to speak. His voice trembled in a way it never had before. You mean that was not their entire army? Hannah let the question hang in the air. She wanted them to understand. She wanted them to feel what the Gorith had felt when the human fleet appeared. The shock. The fear. The realization that everything they believed was wrong. The force we sent was sufficient for the task, Admiral Kim said. We saw no need to deploy more. Our remaining forces stayed home to protect Earth in case other species decided to intervene. He looked directly at High Arbiter Velos. They did not. That was wise. Velos understood the threat hidden in those words. If the Council had tried to help the Gorith, they would have faced humanity's full strength. They would have faced 100,000 ships crewed by a species that had spent 300 years fighting itself before finally learning to work together. What do you want? Velos asked. Conquest? Tribute? Territory? Hannah shook her head. We want what we wanted from the beginning. Peace. Trade. A place in the galactic community. We did not start this war, High Arbiter. We finished it. Or Marshal Krath rose from his seat. Rage burned in his red eyes. You expect us to believe you want peace? After what you did? What we did, Admiral Kim replied coldly, was show mercy. We could have destroyed every Gorith world. We could have ended your species entirely. We chose not to. We took your soldiers prisoner instead of killing them. We left your homeworld untouched. We stopped when you could no longer fight, leaned closer to the holographic camera. Be grateful we are who we are, Marshal. A species that wanted conquest would have left nothing but ashes. Krath had no response. He sat back down, silent and broken. Counselor Pyrene stepped forward. You speak of centuries of preparation, centuries of hiding your strength. Your people must have been afraid for a very long time. Hannah nodded slowly. We still are. The universe is vast and full of dangers. But we also learned something important during those centuries of waiting. What did you learn? That strength without wisdom leads to destruction. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times before we united. Our history is full of wars and suffering. We do not want to spread that suffering to others. She looked around the chamber at all the different species. Some looked at her with fear. some with hatred. But some, like Pyrene, looked at her with something that might have been understanding. We want to be your partners, not your masters. We want to share knowledge and trade goods and explore the galaxy together. But we will never again be victims. We will never again let anyone attack our people without consequence. High Arbiter Velos sat in silence for a long moment. The chamber waited for his response. Finally, he spoke. The Council will consider your words, Ambassador. We will discuss terms for ending this conflict and establishing new relations. Hannah bowed respectfully. That is all we ask. As she turned to leave, Pyrene called out to her, Ambassador, one more question. Hannah stopped and looked back. If the Gorath had not attacked your scientists, if they had simply let your ships go, would we ever have known the truth about your species? Hannah smiled sadly. Probably not. We would have stayed hidden, stayed small, stayed safe. She shook her head. They forced us into the light. Now everyone has to deal with what they see. She walked out of the chamber, leaving a changed galaxy behind her. 6 months had passed since the war ended. The galaxy was learning to live with a new reality. Humanity was no longer a small, primitive species hiding on one planet. They were a power that could challenge anyone and everyone at once. Captain Park Subin, now Rear Admiral Park Subin, stood before a memorial on Earth's moon. The monument was simple. 3 stone pillars, one for each ship lost at Kepler 442. 47 names carved into black marble. 47 scientists who never came home. She wore her dress uniform for the ceremony. Medals covered her chest. The Council of United Earth had called her a hero. They said she started a fire that freed 17 worlds from Goroth oppression. They said her courage inspired a generation. Subin did not feel like a hero. She felt like a survivor who had lost friends. I visit them every week, said a voice behind her. She turned to find Lieutenant Cho Hain, also promoted, now Commander Cho Hyun. He carried flowers in his hands. Simple white flowers that grew in the greenhouses of the lunar colony. I know, Subin said. I have seen you here before. He placed the flowers at the base of the monument. Do you think they would be proud of what we did after? Subin considered the question. The faces of her dead crew members floated through her memory. Dr. Kang, who had been studying asteroid compositions when the first blast hit. Engineer Moon, who kept the engines running until the very end. Young researcher Beak, only 23 years old, who died trying to save the ship's data cores. I think they would be glad the Gorath cannot hurt anyone else, she said finally. But proud? I do not know. They were scientists. They wanted to explore, not conquer. We did not conquer, Hyun reminded her. We freed. Did we? Subin looked up at Earth hanging in the black sky. 17 species now look to humanity for protection. We have military bases on 30 worlds. Our ships patrol trade routes across the galaxy. That sounds like an empire to me. Yoon had no answer for that. Far away on the liberated planet of Tessara, General Yoon Desong oversaw the withdrawal of occupation forces. The Tessarans had been slaves of the Gorath for 200 years. Now they were free, building their own government for the first time in generations. A Tessaran elder approached the general. She was small and fragile, with skin like polished wood and eyes like deep pools of water. You are leaving, she said. Yoon nodded respectfully. Your world belongs to your people now. We have no right to stay. Other conquerors would have stayed. Other conquerors would have made us their servants instead. We are not conquerors. Yoon looked at the Tessaran soldiers training nearby. Human instructors taught them how to use weapons, how to defend their world. We are teachers. When you can protect yourselves, you will not need us anymore. The elder studied his face. Why? Why help us? What do you gain? Yoon thought about the question for a long moment. My grandfather fought in a war on Earth. His grandfather fought in another war, and his grandfather before him. For thousands of years, my people made war against each other. We learned how to fight. We learned how to kill. We learned how to destroy. He paused, watching the Tessaran soldiers practice. but we also learned something else. We learned that peace is better than war. We learned that helping others makes us stronger, not weaker. We learned that the only way to truly win is to stop fighting. The elder nodded slowly. You are strange creatures, humans. Yes, Yoon agreed. We are. At the Galactic Council, a new order was taking shape. High Arbiter Velos had agreed to significant reforms. The Gorath Dominion was dissolved. War Marshal Krath faced trial for war crimes. The species they had enslaved received independence and support. Humanity asked for nothing in return except recognition and respect. Ambassador Lee Hanna sat in her office on APEC 7, reviewing trade agreements and diplomatic proposals. Her job had become much more complicated in the past 6 months. Everyone wanted to talk to humanity now. Everyone wanted to be their friend. A message arrived from Earth. Admiral Kim Tae-ho appeared on her screen. Ambassador. The Council has approved our proposal for a mutual defense pact. All member species will be protected equally. No more conquests. No more slavery. Hannah smiled. That is good news, Admiral. Kim paused. The High Arbiter wants to meet with you privately. He has questions. What kind of questions? The kind without easy answers. He wants to understand why we chose mercy over vengeance. Hannah nodded. She had expected this. Tell him I will see him tomorrow. The next day she met Velos in a small room overlooking the stars. The High Arbiter looked older than before. The war had changed him. Watching a species he had dismissed as primitive reshape, the entire galaxy had forced him to reconsider many things. You could have demanded our surrender, he said without greeting. You could have taken the Council itself. Why did you not? Hannah looked out at the stars. Because we have been where you are. We have stood over defeated enemies and had to choose what to do next. For most of our history, we chose wrong. We took revenge. We demanded payment. We humiliated those we defeated, and what happened? They hated us. They waited. They rebuilt. And then they attacked again. The cycle never ended. She turned to face him. 300 years ago, we decided to break that cycle. When our last great wars ended, we did not punish the losers. We helped them. We rebuilt their cities. We shared our wealth. We treated them as partners instead of enemies. Velos listened carefully. His silver face was unreadable. At first, many people thought we were foolish. They said our enemies would betray us. They said mercy was weakness. Hannah smiled. They were wrong. The enemies we helped became our strongest allies. The nations we rebuilt became the foundation of our unity. By showing mercy, we created something that had never existed before. A truly united humanity. And now you do the same with us, Velos said slowly. We try. We do not know if it will work. Your species are different from ours. Your histories are different. But we believe the principle is the same. You cannot build lasting peace on the corpses of your enemies. You can only build it together. Velos was silent for a long time. Then he asked one final question. What are you afraid of, Ambassador? A species as powerful as yours must fear something. Hannah considered the question carefully. We are afraid of becoming what we hate. We are afraid of losing ourselves to our own strength. Every day, we must choose to be better than our instincts tell us to be. Every day we must remember why we stopped fighting each other. She looked him directly in the eyes. That is why we need allies, High Arbiter. Not servants. Not subjects. Partners who can remind us who we want to be. Partners who can tell us when we are wrong. Velos nodded slowly. For the first time, something like respect appeared on his ancient face. 1 month later, Counselor Pyrene arrived on Earth as the first alien ambassador. She had volunteered for the position. She wanted to understand this strange, terrifying, merciful species. Her shuttle landed in a place called Sol. It was a city of 30 million humans, full of towering buildings and ancient temples and gardens older than her species. Recorded history, she expected military parades. She expected displays of power. She expected to see the strength that had broken the Gorath. Instead, She saw children playing in a park. She saw elderly couples walking hand in hand. She saw artists painting murals and musicians playing songs and families sharing meals together. A small human child ran up to her. The child had no fear of her strange blue skin or glowing eyes. "Hello, are you a space person? Do you want to play with us?" Pyrene looked at the child, then at the park, then at the vast city around her. This was the species that had hidden an army of 300 million. This was the species with 100,000 warships. This was the species that could have burned the galaxy, but chose not to. She knelt down to the child's level. "Yes," she said. "I would like that very much." That night, she wrote her first report to the council. "The humans are not dangerous because they know how to make war," she wrote. "They are dangerous because they remember why they stopped. They have seen the worst of themselves, and they have chosen to be better. I believe we can learn from them. I believe we must." She paused, looking out her window at the lights of Seoul stretching to the horizon. "I also believe," she added, "that we are very lucky they found mercy before they found us." She sent the report and went to sleep, dreaming of a galaxy where no species needed to hide their strength, because no species wanted to use it. The stars continued their ancient dance overhead, unchanged by the small creatures beneath them. But the creatures had changed, and in the end, that was what mattered most.